Hi, my name is Jay, and just like many other artists, I have entire boxes worth of old characters and OCs from stories stored in my brain. And today, I wanted to take my main childhood OCs and redesign them. And bring you along with me, of course. Aww. If you don't know, there has always been a random group of 3 characters lurking on my social media for a while. I've had these characters for years. I think I made them when I was around 12 or 13. These are the 3 main characters in my OC universe, Shoya, Liakai, and Aima. Obviously, they're very near and dear to me, coming from a part of my own brain, but I kind of lost touch with my own creations over the last year, and I haven't drawn them in a long time. And looking at them now with the art progress I've made, I decided it's time to refresh their designs. But to save me and you both from an hour-long video where I just ramble, I decided to tackle them one at a time in 3 separate videos. And today I've decided to start with Liakai. Liakai has been a staple, honestly. I used to draw him more than almost anything. He was my peak scrunkly, obviously. My own personal Tumblr blorbo from my shows. Just look at him, dude.
Damn. He don't got a clue in the fucking world.
And as I've grown and opened my horizons to what I can draw and visualize, I feel like I can finally give him and his story some justice, which we will of course be getting into later this video. To start this process, I of course went crawling back to the depths, Pinterest.com. This is the board I put together to put all of my ideas into one place. Liakai is a little different from my other character design videos, since I already have a deep base for a character to start with. I've had this character for 6 years, trust I know him. It was time to put all of this inspiration onto canvas, so I started with drawing Liakai's face in my style now, which ended up looking like this. I started by picking my favorite pictures from Pinterest of ideas that I really wanted to add, like how Liakai has a tattoo on his back and hands, has some old piercings from an emo phase. He has important jewelry like dog tags and necklaces, and to address the elephant in the room, he is a werewolf. As far as outfit, I knew I wanted to put him in this old sort of beat up jacket. Most of the story takes place in a little mountain town, so that's what I wanted his overall vibe to give off. Very Gilmore Girls, very much scarves and jackets and flannel. I'm not getting rid of anything from his original design, so I'm keeping things like the scar that's on his cheek and the little part of his ear that's been ripped off. And this is what we ended up with as a first pass of brainstorming and putting all of our ideas out there. After that, I started fleshing out an actual character and redesigning parts of him that were more important for sort of a base character sheet sort of thing. I'm also saving everyone from the excruciatingly hard watch of me trying to figure out anatomy for about 40 minutes, so this is what we ended up with. Alright, we're gonna get into the meat of actually redesigning this character. My character's name is Navi Liakai Laurier. Very fancy, and it speaks to his lineage a little bit, which we will get into. For this entire video, I'm kind of following my typical character design process. If you've seen the video where I designed a Dungeons & Dragons character, that's basically what we're going with. I'm redesigning my OCs, so obviously there were things that I didn't quite like with their old designs, and Liakai was one of the main ones because I have a very strong idea of who Liakai is as a character in my brain, and I felt like my thoughts were never translated properly to canvas in his old drawings. In my universe, most of the characters have a certain ability or like a magical aspect about them. Liakai is obviously a werewolf, and he's based off of a gray wolf. The abilities aren't presented in like a superhero aspect type of way, it's just kind of a part of the storyline. He's a very hard-working, workhorse, no-nonsense type of character in the beginning, and I felt like his old design never described that clearly, even though that's what his personality has always been like. So for this first sketch, I am mainly focusing on his outfit because it was one of the things that I didn't like about his design the most, and in the end, I think I came up with something pretty cohesive, so I'll explain where my head was at while I was designing it. All 3 of my main characters come from different regions in their little world, and the place where Liakai grew up and comes from is this like old sort of small town area where it's kind of like tight-knit and very closed off, and everything is kind of ran by a well-oiled machine. Liakai comes from a very well-respected family, which is sort of why he acts the way he acts. He's like a lovable asshole trope. The only thing I can kind of compare his hometown to would be like Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls, so that was a big inspiration of mine when I was coming up with the design for him. How this translated with all of my certain inspirations was something that he could definitely go outside and work in, and that spoke to that part of his character. I want him to look like he's been outside within the past week. So I gave him this old like Carhartt jacket with a bunch of patches on it to kind of rough it up a little bit, a scarf, a sweater with a flannel on top of it, some old work jeans, and some boots. I think it came to me really easy because back when I was drawing Liakai in like 2020 to 2023, I was mainly focusing on just his face and trying to make a character and more like focusing on his story and stuff, and his design and the cohesiveness kind of got lost along the way. So I really wanted to focus on that this time. When it came to colors, I wanted them to be muted and very warm, sort of like a fall type of vibe. It's kind of silly, but one of Liakai's big inspirations when it comes to his color palette is actually those like early 2000s Tuscan houses. I don't know, that's just his vibe. As much as I wasn't the biggest fan of Liakai's old outfits and overall design, I did keep a couple things, like his skin tone and his hair color and his eye color. Liakai is based off of a gray wolf, so that's where the kind of tan olive skin comes from and the ashy blonde hair. I associate a color with all of my OCs, and blue has always been sort of Liakai's color. I think it's a strong but calm color, and it speaks to his personality. I'll get more into who he is as a character when we get past this like base idea character sheet, but he's got a lot. There's a lot to get into. It was kind of hard to make this video because I had so many things that I wanted to say, but I didn't know when was the right time to say them. So I'm just focusing on the outfit for now. I think overall I'm a lot happier with how this came out, and it actually speaks to his character a lot more. Like, this is definitely something I see Liakai wearing. It's kind of silly to see my characters grow up with me, even when it comes to like their faces and their hair. He just looks way older than when I drew him like over a year ago. That was basically it though for this first part of his redesign. I just wanted to make an outfit that really screamed Liakai in my head, and I think I achieved it. I even added some like little scars to his hands to make him look a little calloused. I like how it turned out, and I was ready to move on. Liakai has 2 tattoos, and it's kind of funny because even I forget about them sometimes because I almost never draw them. There actually hasn't been a single official design for his tattoo, so I was gonna get down to doing that today. I always had a vague idea of what his tattoos would be, but I had never really fully thought it out, so I went to my sketchbook first to make a first pass type of thing that I could base the rest of my design off of. In my head, Liakai has always had 2 ravens onto his back in this kind of like cool little detailed design, and it's not just for looks. There are reasons for this. Gonna go into a little bit of a lore drop, but ravens and wolves actually have a very symbiotic relationship when it comes to actual biology. They have this funny relationship where they actually work together really well and alert each other about hunting, or wolves will leave ravens food after their hunts, and it's like this funny little friendship out in the world. And as I explained earlier, there are 2 other characters in my sort of main trio when it comes to this story, and their names are Shoya and Aima. And the tattoo on Liakai's back is supposed to basically represent those 2 characters as ravens, since they all have this like really tight-knit, close friendship. Liakai is a very loyal person. He's very dedicated, so while this is a cool tidbit, obviously his tattoo has deeper meaning. It's this permanent thing on his body that resembles his friends that he's very loyal to and that he loves very much. They have a very close-knit relationship in the story, and I wanted something that kind of nodded to that at least a little bit, and I think I did that pretty successfully. I have a little bit of a history of drawing ravens. Back in the day, my little persona had 2 that was always with them, which is sort of funny because I'm actually very, very scared of birds in real life, but I do like how it turned out. I started working on his second tattoo, which is the hand tattoo that I brought up earlier, and I also just wanted to draw Liakai's hand specifically because I did put a little bit of thought into it. Liakai is a werewolf. Most of his things and his power revolves around strength, and so he has very strong, lanky hands. And I also wanted to add scars later on to show that he's very much a worker. I'll get into his tattoo for a second, but I also want to mention in his full body he has sharp nails, but I purposely trimmed them down on his like close-up of his hand. Liakai refuses to not look put together just because of his upbringing and his overall insecurities that make him present himself a certain way, and he purposely trims them down so that they look neater and more put together. As far as the tattoo, it's this blossoming tree. A lot of Liakai's story has to do with rebirth and growth as a person, so I think a tree symbolized that really well. And it was really fun to draw, obviously. All of his tattoos have very strict meaning behind them, just like all of my characters, and I do really like how it turned out, and I was happy that I finally got to flesh it out the way that I always pictured it. Next thing I decided that would be important to add to this like base character reference sheet is Liakai's side profile. I've always wanted Liakai's side profile to resemble a wolf in some way, so I tried my best when I was sketching it out. It basically just means that in the end, his nose and his jaw is a little longer than most other characters. Whenever I draw Liakai's face, sometimes I will literally just use pictures of wolves for a face reference instead of like other humans, and I think it gets my ideas across more. It also gave me a chance to point out other parts of his design that are a little bit smaller in other pieces, like his scar that I keep on his cheek and just his overall expression, and his little cute button nose that I love so dearly. I also want to bring up something that I did change in Leokai's design that I wanted to showcase in this sketch specifically. It's Leokai's hair. I was never fully happy with what Leokai's hair looked like. It just was big and spiky and gave like a Final Fantasy-esque type of character, and that didn't really speak to him at all. We haven't gotten into it yet, but Leokai actually attended and did basic training for my universe's version of like a military and military academy. So he's used to his hair being clean and short, and it also just speaks to that's how he portrays himself and carries himself. So I purposely added his undercut, and he got a little bit of a hair trim, which I think suits him a lot more. And to bring it up before someone else does, I once again got caught in the Bakugo Katsuki curse from My Hero Academia. People said it about Blair, people said it about my Jolteon design from a previous video. I tried my best to fix it, but even while I was drawing it, I was like, I literally cannot escape that random anime character. Overall though, I do like how it turned out. I end up making his chin longer in the end because I think it speaks to that wolf factor more. This was basically just so people could see his new haircut, his undercut, the scar on his cheek, and his like wolf-ish face. And you don't see it for very long, but the little notes on the side. When wolves get irritated or very emotional or territorial, they have hackles, which is the hair on the back of their neck, and it stands up, and I wanted it to be known that Leokai also does that. The next thing I wanted to add to this like base character sheet where I'm just pointing out all of his important aspects is that he has 3 accessories that are important to his lore. The first thing, I kept seeing all of these carabiners, which is the things that hook onto your pant loop things, but I kept seeing them with little indentations or carvings on the side of it, so I was like, that's very Leokai core. It's one of the newer parts of his design that I was adding while I was doing like my whole brainstorming process. It actually became really important while I was fleshing it out. The word on it is Hanabira, which basically just means flower petal. Once again, flowers have a lot to do with the symbolism in my story, and it ties back to another character in the main trio, which we'll get more into that when I actually do his video. But yeah, it is an important piece. The next important accessory that Leokai has is actually his dog tags from when he was in basic training in my universe's version of the military. Dog tags are used in the military when soldiers are hurt in battle and they can't be identified in any other way except for the chain that they wear around their neck with all of their info on it. It has his last name and his first name. Leokai goes by his middle name, fun fact, which is why I call him Leokai. And I also put his blood type on there, and this is a tangent I want to go into for a minute. While I was looking at dog tags, I saw that they had their blood types on them, but I never thought of it for my own characters. But mostly in manga, I see that a lot of people give their characters blood types, and I wanted to know why. And there's actually this whole theory, kind of like zodiac signs, where people's blood types determine kind of their personality and how they act. And it was actually a super cool thing to look into, like blood type personality theory. So I gave him a blood type anyway, even if I don't fully buy into all that stuff, because I needed to put it on the dog tag anyway. Other than that, I also put a religion down. Religion is a thing in my story. I'm not religious, but this character is for a portion of his life, and it has to do with his whole plot. So I added that. I went in with my shading and everything, and I added some dirt and grime to make it look like it's been really old and kind of forgotten. Leokai has mixed feelings about this portion of his life, so I just wanted to resemble that in the way that this dog tag is kept. And I did obviously purposely cover up a portion of it with dirt because it has to do with lore and plot. The last important accessory that Leokai has is actually a locket that he wears around his neck. This has always been a part of his design, and I'm happy I finally get to flesh it out. It's a locket that holds pictures inside of it. Leokai has a lot of lore that we'll get into later, but basically it holds pictures of his mom and his sister inside and has a flower design on the background, once again tying into his whole flower symbolism that all of my characters have, honestly. I give Leokai lots of necklaces that have to do with him as a character because he has a lot of dog symbolism. He is obviously loyal. He's literally a wolf also. And he holds a lot of things around his neck, like collars in a way, that tie him to other people, like his time in his academy, his mom and his sister, things that are important to him some way, even if he has mixed feelings about them. This was one of the last things I added to this whole like character reference sheet, and it was fun to actually get these ideas and like flesh them out fully because they've always been a part of his design, but I've never had them down somewhere where I can look at everything in one place and be like, yeah, that's a part of Leokai's design and here's why. And this is what it ended up looking like. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think he looks way better already, and it was a good base for me to continue on in my character redesign process. I came back to my redesign journey the next day, and I decided that I wanted to add on to Leokai's outfits more than anything, since this was one of the things I wanted to change the most. And these are the designs that we ended up with. For the first one, I kind of just revamped the design that I already gave him. So he has like 2 main outfits that I could put him in. I gave him sort of like a cuter scarf, added some work gloves, and put him in these old pair of Converse because I think they spoke to his character a little bit more. And then just for fun, I gave him some sleepwear. I also almost never draw what my characters would sleep in, so I just wanted to. And after that, I went on to making Leokai's actual finished character sheet. I put all of my favorite pieces of him that I had done so far, and I laid them out in the format that I wanted. And then, as a little special treat to myself, he is a werewolf, and I wanted to fully draw a little sketch of what Leokai's werewolf form would look like. I drew it a really long time ago, but it was just a headshot, and I decided since I am making him a new character sheet, then I should probably put a new little headshot of his wolf character design. He's based off of a gray wolf, so I was just looking at that. Me and drawing wolves have a bit of a history. I used to draw them literally all the time, so it was kind of muscle memory in my brain, and I was just blocking out shapes with my sketch. The colors were fun to pick. It's honestly just based off of his hair color and this like light ashy brown type of gray thing. The picture of the wolf that I have next to it is a picture that I have used as a Leokai reference for probably around 3 to 4 years. So when I see this picture of this wolf, I'm like, oh, that's Leokai. But I added on all of my extra details and kind of finished up my sketch a little bit. It's just supposed to look sketchy. I wasn't gonna do like full finished pieces for Leokai's character sheet at this very moment. My main goal was to just get him to a place where he looked redesigned and where I actually want to draw him again because I like his design more. And it's fun to just draw this like cute little blue-eyed wolf. I wanted him to look kind of unsure and uncertain. That's how Leokai approaches most things in his life. I want to do a full video where I describe all my characters' lore, but I should probably get through with all the redesigns first. I formatted what I wanted the character sheet to look like and added just some color blocks of certain things that I wanted people's eyes to draw into, and this is what it ended up looking like. This is Leokai's new and improved character sheet. I think it's a far cry from his old one and it looks a lot better, but I still think it looks like him, and I kept like the essence of his character, which was easy considering he is from my brain. This was a really fun process, and it was fun to look back and kind of revamp this character that I've had for literal years, who I personally think I know so well. I got to see kind of a new form of his, and honestly just drawing him in my style now and how I draw things was just an upgrade in itself, but I think the whole redesign turned out really well. I got 2 more characters of the main trio and even some side characters, so expect more videos like this in the future because this was honestly really fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did, this was very much just a video where I wanted to just draw something and I turn it into a video, and I had a really fun time doing it. So if you watched the whole thing, thank you so much. Drink water if you haven't this entire video. It's sort of a longer one, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.